Well, good day everyone, and how's it going? Let's start out the day with a Chevy Suburban. That's right, we have a big Suburban, the urban assault vehicle. What's going in this, you might ask? A bunch of Pioneer stuff. Let's take a look and see what he's already got, and we'll talk about what we're doing. So in the dash already is a Pioneer 4200, cool, hooked up to a factory Bose system. Mid-range in the doors, tweeters up here, rear speakers there, and the little these guys way back here. So what we're adding in it today is a GMD 8601, this guy right here. He built his own 210 porta box. He works with wood. He did an awesome job. Check this thing out. So it's actually shellac. Oh wow, okay. So he put like a rhino liner here in the bottom so it wouldn't slide around. And then all the screw holes he actually puttied over or put plugs in. It's really nice. Really nice job. Those are his initials. Box is on point. The rest of the equipment we got going in is a 0 gauge kit from Stinger. 3.5s for the rear. We're gonna put some 47 microfarad caps on that. We've been testing to see where these guys are gonna go. These are the Pioneer component 6.5 with tweeters. He's got 2 sets of these. There's the other set. We have a dual battery system in the car. We're gonna add the Stinger relay so that when the car is off, the two don't touch. This is the PAC 200 relay. We'll talk more about that once we get to it. We got a box of accessories. He's got an access piece in there. We're going to swap it out for the RP4 GM11. We have more 0 gauge here for between the 2 batteries, a couple more fuse holders, because for this we're gonna need 3 fuse holders, 1 between each battery, and of course 1 for running to the back. We have a distribution block so we can split the 0 gauge once it gets to the back. And then some ring terminals, some roadkill. We're also gonna do fast rings. And we got like a day to do this, straight up day. He's from out of town. He needs his car back. We're gonna hustle through this. So if we skip over a couple things, I apologize. It's all trying to get this thing done as quick as we can and as pretty as we can, because after all, that's the most important thing, is the installation, not the video. But we don't want to leave anything out. Now the plan is to remove this side panel here. We're gonna make it so the amps, they're gonna go underneath this. We're gonna cut this out here so we can access the gains and all that fun stuff. We'll drill a hole here for the wire to come out to the subs. Got this wired up at 1 ohm right now, which is what those amplifiers will do. We're gonna pull this seat out so we have access to run the RCAs up the center here, because we're going down this side with the 0 gauge. We're gonna run speaker wires to each of the doors. So we're gonna go to here, you know, and then up into the kicks for the tweeters. Instead of trying to bypass the Bose amplifier, I feel that just running new wires will be a little quicker. And I think that's it for right now. Fernando is gonna go ahead and get started on this speaker here. I gotta get this seat out so I get out of his way so that he can get out of my way. Sound good, Fernando?
Sounds perfect.
You excited?
I'm so excited.
You look excited.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. I'm glad you're excited. Have the seat out. What we had to do, he has this overhead right here, and the wires were just kind of hanging out like this one is right here, just kind of chilling. So we went ahead and re-ran the wire into the C-pillar here, and of course zip tied it up along the floor here, because we have a 0 gauge it's got to go here, so we're going to need all the room that we can get. And then we got the big side panel out. Now we have to remove this bracket here, and we're going to mock up where we're going to put the amplifiers and cut some plastic. Fernando just finished up door number 1. You happy?
I'm happy.
All right, so what we have on is the fast rings. We went ahead and roadkill, as you saw, all around the speaker. We roadkill up inside the door panel so that on the outside here, nice and deadened. Now we're gonna go ahead and get the panel back on. Probably need to trim this down just a little bit, maybe not. We'll see once it compresses on there. And then he went ahead and he ran a new wire into the boot. Yep. That's easy to do on this front one. Rear one's gonna be a lot more difficult because this is actually a plug, so we're not gonna run through that because I don't really want to drill this. So we're actually gonna mount the crossover up in here somewhere because we're planning on putting the tweeter down here, which you'll see in just a few minutes as Fernando gets ready to start on this door. have our two amplifiers, and essentially we want them to sit like this so that the gain controls and everything are up here towards the top. This is the side panel here. So essentially what we want it to do is poke out of the top here. We need to make sure these will both fit width-wise, which we're good, and that comes right up. Okay. So we'll get a measurement here, 15/38. We'll start with a height of 15 because we want it to stick out a little bit. All right, so we've gone ahead and cut a 1/4 inch piece of ABS. We just made it perfectly square, 16 3/8 by 16 3/8. Probably gonna have to cut some of the bottom of it off to compensate for this jute, or just remove the jute, and it's gonna sit down another inch. Now what we wanna do is go ahead and take the plastic panel and remove where the pocket is so that we can actually get this thing to fit in there. So our panel fits. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add a lip to the inside of this right here so that we can actually screw this panel into this. And I think I'm gonna cut a groove in the jute below it. Let's take it over to the saw and cut off this top half. So the plan is to take this guy right here. We're gonna attach it in to the back here. This will screw it in from the bottom, and that way we'll be able to attach this to it. When we go to put these amps in, these screw holes here will actually screw into this, locking the whole thing into place. All the gains and everything are up here on the top of the amplifier, so we'll be able to adjust everything from here once it's all installed. So we have the GMD 8604 and the GMD 8601 monoblock 4-channel. What we want to do is go ahead and flip them up here and turn all the crossovers on, set all the gains to 0, and put the crossovers at 80 Hertz. We do this just as a preliminary. It's not where they're going to stay. We do it so that we touch the amplifiers and know where they're set before we get them in the car, accidentally turn it on, could blow something. So it's just a safe practice that we do. In this case, also make sure it's set to 4-channel mode. And then of course repeat the process on the sub amp. Now what we're gonna do is get these both mounted onto this amplifier. We're gonna pre-drill some holes and we're gonna start wiring this thing up. Now as we said, what we plan on doing is running our own new speaker wire out to the car. This is getting a 0 gauge, so we have a 0 to 4 gauge distribution here. This is the SHD20. Now what this thing will do is it'll do 4 gauge to 8 gauge, 4 gauge to 4 gauge, 0 gauge to 8 gauge, or 0 gauge to 4 gauge, which is what we need. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mount this thing like right here. We can run our 0 gauge to it and our 2 4 gauge out. For RCAs, we're gonna use the 6-channel 4000 series Stinger RCAs. We use these all the time. I like the 6-channel, it's nice and flat. We're gonna be running this thing up the center console, so being flat like this is really nice. Alright, so the amplifier is all wired up and ready to go. What we have going on is these speaker wires right here are for the rear 3.5s. They're connected in with the rear speakers. We're going to put bass blockers on those like we talked about. We have all 4 of the speaker wires going forward in this bundle. We have the 0 gauge in this bundle, and we have our subwoofer here in this. It's a 10 gauge subwire. And then these break out into 3 bundles. We have our RCA with remote turn on and subwoofer wire, and we have our left and right speaker wires. So that's how that breaks down. We're gonna go ahead now and get this put into the car and start trying to route our wires where they need to go. So this is the rear speaker mount, and though we did the passenger door already, I really didn't get an opportunity to talk about what we were doing with it. It was in the time lapse while we were building the amplifier. We just knocked one of these out real quick. So now that that's done, what we have is, it's just a little too small. So what we need to do is make this hole just a little bigger so that our 6.5 fits in there nice and flat. So for that, what we're gonna do is there's these little teeth right here. We're gonna sand these down. We're also gonna remove this area back here so that we can widen this hole out to this right here. This ring right here is the perfect size for the speaker to fit in. To that, we're just gonna use our cutoff wheel and a grinding tool. So there we go. Speaker's in there nice and flat, which is what you're looking for. Fernando's gonna go ahead and add some foam to the back of it, and he'll finish up that door. All right, just to get you guys up to speed, so what we did is we went ahead and road killed the outside of the door. That's the part where you knock, makes it sound all hollow. So that's all road killed up. Yeah, it's black, so you really can't see it.
Right.
There's really nothing to road kill here. It's just a plastic mount. Now, originally we were just gonna mount the crossovers in the door because we have the tweeters mounted down here. That guy right there. Fernando went ahead and was able to snake wire. We didn't have to drill them. We were actually able to push wire right through it, fit through the holes, so that was cool. So we ran wires through the holes, and then the crossovers are mounted right here. So our gray wires will go ahead and connect up right here in the B pillar. We've already gone ahead and done this side along with run the 0 gauge, which is this stuff right here. It runs all along, and I just got done drilling the hole in the firewall. Now this truck is one of the easier trucks to drill holes in the firewall. I haven't insulated it yet because we still have another hole to drill. There it is right there. So drilled it in, there's a grommet in place. Of course it comes out and it's gonna stop right about there. Now what we have to build is a mount that goes here that's gonna hold the relay and 2 fuse holders, because we're gonna have to go between this battery and that battery. So there'll be a fuse holder here, and we also have to run an accessory wire back into the car for the relay. For this, we're gonna use the TS-A878 3.5. It's these guys right here. We're gonna put in some Stinger A47 capacitors on them, also called base blockers. So what we wanna do is get some wire on here first. Now for this, go ahead and bend them down a little bit because you wanna put the wire on the inside. Go ahead and put some shrink wrap onto the wire, wrap the wire on, slide it into place up against the cap. Now the reason why we soldered the wire to the inside of the speaker is to keep as much stuff from the outside, because it's a super tight fit. I don't want to make it any thicker than necessary. So by putting those wires on the inside, it's going to keep any opportunity for them to rub against the metal. Go ahead and add some bullet connectors so we can remove them. And lastly, we're going to put one piece of heat shrink over this. Alright, this guy's all set. We can repeat the process on the other one. We'll repeat the process on the other one, and then we'll screw them into the car. Now, the only other thing you have to do for the rear speakers to get them to go, to get these panels to go back in, because there's this mount for the little 2.5, is actually remove the center part where that 2.5 goes, leaving the 2 panel clips in. To do that, sometimes these actually fall off when you're taking them out, which makes it real easy. You just cut the 2 ends off, glue them back on, you're good to go. Otherwise, just real careful, cut them. There again, grind them down until they break apart, making sure not to go through the actual panel. But a lot of the times these actually just are already falling off because they just plastic weld these on. So then you can just cut them and then snap it back in place. All right, we went ahead and added foam to the back of the speaker. Now we'll go ahead and slide it into place. Alright, so now all we need to do is repeat that on the other side. Now the Stinger kit comes with the 0 gauge pigtail as well as a fuse holder. We're just going to use 2 more of the same fuse holders. They're the SPD 5201s. Now this is the relay isolator. We've talked about them on the Facebook show, but we've never actually talked about actually putting one in a car. So let's look at this real quick and what you have. You have 2 big bolts here and 2 small bolts here. These 2 bolts are gonna be for your power wire. They're gonna attach just like this. And what they're gonna do is when you charge these 2 wires, meaning you put an accessory and a ground to them, it's gonna connect these 2. Then when you turn the key off, it's gonna separate the two. That's it. That's all this thing does. It's really just a big relay. It works just like the little relays that we put in that these are the two coils that charge and connect these two plates together. This one will just handle 200 amps, whereas standard relays only go for about 30 amps. So we have all this stuff to get in. All right, so a slight change in plan. What we decided to do is we're only gonna mount the two fuse holders over on this side. We're gonna mount them right here. There's just way too much stuff going on over in this corner for them to actually fit very well. So we're gonna mount a fuse holder here, a fuse holder here, and then we'll mount the relay over on that side. So we have the relay mounted. It's like an L. It's gonna screw into a bracket we have in the car. Then this will attach to the battery. Last thing we have left to do is hook up our power and ground that we're going to run into the car. And did I mention my desk is just wrecked? Holy cow. All right, so now we just need to get this into the car. The batteries are both wired up and the fuse holders are in. So the top fuse holder here is for the amplifiers in the back. This fuse holder here is going off and around and down to the relay here. Fuse holder here to the battery. You guys might be wondering why this is here, because he has this lead acid battery here, this lead acid battery here, and when the car is off, the two batteries are going to battle each other because there's not a positive flow of current coming from the alternator. So with this guy here, it's going to separate the two batteries so that when the key is off, they're not going to discharge one another and you won't have a weaker, stronger battery situation. So now that this is done, it's time to get into the car and get the dash out and start wiring up that new harness. We have the radio out of the dash. Unfortunately, I'm sorry I didn't show it to you. Just needed to get it out real quick. This is the harness we're dealing with here, so we're gonna go ahead and get rid of all of this. The funny thing is this actually has an overhead and they had the audio input plugged into the subwoofer output. Way to go. They have all this black tape covering all our RCAs. First thing we're going to need to do is clean all these RCA tips, get all this black goo off of them. Don't put black tape over your RCAs. Shrink wrap or get the rubber thingies to go over them. Now for this install, we're not going to use any of these speaker wires or the mute wire. So we're going to go ahead and just cap those off real quick. All these other wires are of various heights and lengths. So we might need to lengthen some of them. So we'll just set it there for right now. And I got my workbench cleaned off, so I feel much better. Now I'm going to head over into the car because I need to see what he's got going on. He's got a backup camera. I want to see how that's hooked up. Plus, I need to see what other accessories we need to add. We know we're going to need to hook up the bypass. We know we're going to need a remote turn on. We know we're gonna need a power and ground to hook up the relay underneath the hood. Yeah, so I need to head into the car real quick. All right, so he has what was powering the purple white wire here, and it's weird because there is a power and ground that run back to the camera, but it's not here in the dash. So what I need to do is plug this in and see how this is working. We have our camera tester and it is connected to accessory, so that's good. Yeah, so cool. It is connected to accessory, it's just not connected behind the radio. All right, so nothing extra behind the radio. Let's go back over to the bench. All right, so for this, we're gonna use the RP4GM11. So he's not retaining the OnStar because in this particular vehicle, it's out of date, so we don't need it. What's nice about this is that it's one module, steering wheel controls, bypass, all the stuff built into it. This white sticker, do not remove this white sticker until you set this for your radio. In this case, it's a 7. What you can do is take your instruction manual, open it up, go to the top of page 2, and it gives you a list of all the stereos that this will do. In this case, Pioneer is 7. That's it. That's all you got to do. Now, the reason for that is because this needs to be set before you apply power to this. If you don't, bad things will happen. But now that we've gone ahead and set this, we can go ahead and remove this sticker. The other thing that you want to do right off the bat is come in here and grab this little harness right here. This is the steering wheel harness. This is the thing. It's not attached to this, so it's easily lost. You're gonna wanna go ahead and make sure you grab it. In this case, there's a blue yellow wire on it. That's for the Kenwoods or the JVCs, which this is not. If you want, you can just cap cap it off. I suggest strongly capping it off or cutting it off, whatever you'd like to do. Once you've done that, go ahead and plug it in. Now this is so you don't lose it, because there again, it's not part of this harness, it's easily lost. Now right off the bat, things we're not going to use are the speaker wires. We ran all new speaker wires, so we're not going to use these. The reason why these have RCAs is because if you have a Bose system like he has, and you are keeping the Bose system, you could just plug this into the back of the radio. You will need some SNI1 noise filters though, because otherwise you'll get engine noise. Now if you had a non-Bose system, you can go ahead and cut these off, connect them to your speaker wires just like that, and you're all set. What we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and cut these off, and we're going to put caps on them to insulate them. So in this instruction manual, the wiring harness is broken into 3 parts. The steering wheel control that we just talked about, the main speaker wires, power and ground, and then this guy over here that they call, sometimes it's called the navigation harness. You call it whatever you want. I'll call it the specialty harness. And in it we have the parking brake output, vehicle speed sense, amp turn on, accessory, illumination, and reverse output. This is the section you need to pay the most attention to, because depending on which one of these you're having, this might not match up with this. He's got these 2 USB HDMI thingies, auxiliaries right here. Went ahead and mounted the bass knob right next to it. Just need to finish snapping this back in. I have my harness here. Our RCAs were just long enough. I mean, that which is a win in my book. What's the weather like today?
It's currently clear.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put our polarity disc in, and we're gonna test the polarity on all the speakers. Alright, so all the speakers, polarity test correct. That's awesome. The first thing we want to do is listen to it and check our crossover points. So we're going to play some bass heavy music like we normally do and see where these things are playing at. Remember, we start out at 80 Hertz. Sometimes that's good, sometimes you have to go up, sometimes you have to go down. We're going to listen to it, see what it sounds like. Yeah. So I feel like we're pretty good. Crossover seems to be working. The subs are blending in great. We're gonna go ahead and run some peak noise and see what this thing looks like on an RTA, just to get an idea. Now keep in mind, this system, this is for everything. This guy he's like, I listen to a ton of different style of music. I just want an all-around setting. For what we got, I think we have a pretty nice roll through there. I'm not a big fan, as I said, of 500 Hertz, so that's dipped here. I think we're good as far as the EQ goes. Go ahead and listen to some more music. Now he has a SD card in here. So let's go ahead and pull up his SD card and see what he's got to listen to. All right, guys, so the last thing we have to do is put the dash back on because everything checked out good. What do you think, Fernando?
That was impressive.
This is an all Pioneer system, and this is probably one of the first all Pioneers. From the subwoofers to everything. Everything is Pioneer. This guy liked Pioneer. He wanted all Pioneer system. I don't think we've ever done like.
Except by Eddie's car.
We did Eddie's car. Yeah, that's true, because he's a Pioneer rep. Other than that, yeah, really happy with the way this thing sounds.
And I believe that was the same system.
No, he
right?
did a 5-channel.
Yes, I remember. Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did a 5-channel.
Yeah.
Speaker-wise. Same speakers.
Yeah.
This is obviously a little bit more power.
Correct.
I think the more power is probably good.
Yeah.
And this has 2 10s. That box is killing it, man.
That's really nice box.
For 10s, man, those are pounding. Way to go, man.
He
built it
made
himself. He did a good job.
Yeah,
so you should be real happy with that. All right, well, we're just gonna load the stuff back in that we took out. This car's staying the night. It's actually pretty late. Like I said this morning, we had to get this one done. He's picking it back up. He's actually staying in a hotel waiting for us to finish. So he'll be happy tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it, man.
That's it. As usual, we hope you guys enjoyed this.
See you in a few hours.
You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.